Welcome back to the Mimi Monologue. Last time we talked about whether love is real in our increasingly disconnected world. Today, I want to dig into something that's reshaping all of us, whether we like it or not. How technology has fundamentally altered our sense of self and relationships. Think about it. Most of us can't remember a time before smartphones, social media, or constant connectivity. We're the first generation navigating relationships and identity formation in this digital landscape. Our grandparents met at church. We met through algorithms. What does that do to us, to how we see ourselves, to how we connect to others? That's what we're going to be exploring today. We've become editors of our own lives, constantly deciding what's shareable, what fits our aesthetic, what will get engagement. Even private moments getting filtered through the lens of, would this make good content? The philosopher McLuhan argues that this constant curation creates a burnout society, where we're exhausted by the pressure to perform versions of ourselves. And psychologist Turkle notes that we're increasingly alone together, physically present but mentally focused on our digital presentation. The thing is, when you're constantly performing and editing yourself, it becomes harder to know who you really are beneath all those filters. What do I really like? What matters to me when no one is watching? Who am I when I'm not trying to be likable or interesting? And if I'm struggling to know myself authentically, how can I possibly show that authentic self to another person? How can I perform connections based on something real when I'm not even sure what's real about me anymore? This brings us to how technology has transformed relationships themselves. From private experiences into potential content, relationships now have a strange dual existence. They're both intimate connections between two people and public narratives to be consumed by others. We mark milestones with posts. We officialize relationships with status updates. We document date nights for followers. Media theorist McLuhan warned us decades ago that the medium is the message, meaning the technology itself reshapes the content, regardless of what the content is. I've caught myself imagining things I'd do with my partner specifically to share them, or feeling like a moment wasn't complete until it was documented. I've seen friends stay in relationships longer than they should because they built a joint social media presence. I've watched others hesitate to go public with new relationships to avoid judgment if things don't work out. What does it mean when our most intimate connections are shaped by how they'll be perceived by others? When the private language of love becomes part of our personal brand? The third shift is perhaps the most profound: the battle between the attention economy and genuine intimacy. Our devices and apps are designed to capture and monetize our attention. Every notification, every refresh, every algorithm is engineered to keep us engaged. And it works. Studies show that the average person checks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes. But intimacy requires something different: presence, undivided attention, the ability to notice subtle emotional cues, the patience to sit with uncomfortable moments rather than immediately seeking solace in distraction. Writer Odell talks about the need to resist the attention economy and create spaces where we can be fully present. Because when our attention is constantly fragmented, our capacity for deeper connection suffers. Think about your last few conversations. How many were interrupted by notifications? How often did you or the other person check your phone? How many emotional moments were punctuated by the urge to document rather than simply experience? This isn't about demonizing technology. It's about recognizing that qualities needed for genuine connection are becoming increasingly rare in our technological environments. Of course, there's another side to the story. Technology hasn't just eroded connection. It's created entirely new forms of it. Long-distance relationships that would have been impossible are now sustainable. People with niche interests or identities can find their communities. Those with social anxiety or disabilities have new pathways to connection that weren't available before. Digital spaces can foster vulnerability in surprising ways. Sometimes it's easier to share your truth with someone through text before saying it out loud. Sometimes online communities provide support that isn't available in your physical environments. As media theorist Dana Boyd points out, technology doesn't just change our relationships, it reflects and amplifies our existing social dynamics. The problems we face online often mirror deeper cultural issues that technology alone didn't create and can't solve. The question isn't whether technology is good or bad for relationships, but how we can use it intentionally to foster the kinds of connections we really want. So where does this leave us? A generation trying to understand itself and connect with others in a technological landscape. I think it leaves us with choices. Not whether to use technology or not, that's not realistic, but how we decide to use it to serve our deeper need for connection and true self-expression. Maybe it means creating boundaries around when and how you use your device. Maybe it means being more intentional about keeping private moments private. Maybe it means questioning whether we're doing something for the experience or for how they'll be perceived. Having device-free meals, waiting a little before deciding to share my love life, asking myself whether I'm reaching for my phone because I need something specific or because I'm uncomfortable with the quiet moment. This is part of the bigger question we're exploring on the series. How do we create meaningful connections in a world that often works against them? Technology is just one piece of that puzzle, but it's a significant one. I'd love to hear your experiences. How has technology shaped your sense of self, your relationship? What boundaries have you created that helped you stay connected to yourself and others? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Next time we'll be looking at the evolution of dating during the pandemic and beyond. Until then, maybe try one experiment with your relationship to technology and see what you discover about yourself in the process. Bye.